Every single day, millions of people wake up, reach for a small glowing screen, and unknowingly step into a system that quietly shapes their entire day. Messages, photos, work, entertainment, even decisions. Everything passes through one ecosystem, Apple. At first glance, it looks like just a technology company. But when you look deeper, something very different appears because Apple is not just selling devices, it is building an invisible environment where users slowly become dependent without even realizing it. And here's the most interesting part. The biggest misconception in the world is this. People think Apple makes money when you buy an iPhone, but that is only the entry point. The real business begins after you enter the system. So the question is not how Apple sells products. The real question is, how does Apple keep people inside its system for years, even decades? Why do people stay, even when cheaper and sometimes better alternatives exist? And how did a company that started in a small garage become one of the most powerful ecosystems in human history? To understand that, we need to break Apple down, layer by layer, not as a brand, but as a system of control, convenience, and psychology. The story of Apple begins in 1976, not in a billion-dollar office, not in a global headquarters, but in a simple garage in California. Two young individuals, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, had a strange belief at the time. They believed computers should not belong only to corporations. They should belong to people. At that time, computers were huge machines, expensive, complicated, intimidating. Most people never even touched one in their lifetime. But Steve Jobs saw something different. He believed technology should not feel mechanical. It should feel human. It should feel simple. And most importantly, it should feel personal. This idea became Apple's foundation. But Apple did not become powerful immediately. It slowly evolved. First computers, then design-focused machines, then software integration. And slowly, Apple developed something rare in the tech world, a strong emotional identity. People didn't just use Apple products, they felt connected to them, and that emotional connection became the foundation of everything that followed. But what made Apple truly different was not only innovation, it was obsession with detail. While other companies focused on performance and specs, Apple focused on experience. How a product feels in the hand, how it reacts to touch, how simple it looks on the desk. This design philosophy created something powerful. A sense of belonging, not just ownership. And slowly, Apple started shaping a mindset in users without them realizing it. People began to associate Apple with quality, with trust, with identity. And this emotional branding was far stronger than traditional marketing. Because once a brand enters emotion, it stops being just a product. It becomes part of a person's lifestyle. But the real transformation was still waiting. A transformation that would not just change Apple, but change human behavior itself. In 2007, Apple introduced something that looked simple on the surface, but changed the world forever. The iPhone, a device that combined three things: a phone, a music player, and an internet device. At first, competitors didn't take it seriously. But within a few years, everything changed. The iPhone didn't just become popular, it became addictive. People began checking it constantly, not because they needed to, but because it became a habit. And that is where Apple's real power started showing. Because the iPhone was not just a product, it was a behavioral trigger. It changed how people communicate, how they consume content, how they interact with the world. But Apple's true genius was not the iPhone itself. It was what came after it. Because the iPhone was only the gateway. Once inside, Apple started building something much bigger, an ecosystem. After the iPhone, Apple didn't stop at hardware. It expanded into a connected universe. iCloud storing your memories, App Store controlling your apps, Mac syncing your work, iPad extending your screen, Apple Watch tracking your health. Everything connected, everything synchronized, everything dependent on each other. At this point, users were no longer just buying products. They were entering a system designed for convenience, but also designed for retention. Because once your digital life is inside Apple, leaving becomes complicated, not impossible, but inconvenient. And in modern behavior, inconvenience is stronger than logic. This is where Apple's ecosystem model becomes extremely powerful, because Apple does not rely on selling new products alone. It generates continuous revenue from existing users, subscriptions, storage, app purchases, services. This means Apple grows even when people don't buy new phones. And this is what makes it different from almost every other tech company. It is not a product company. It is a system company. Most companies follow a simple business model: sell product, earn profit, repeat. But Apple does something completely different. When you buy an iPhone, Apple earns once. But after that, Apple continues earning again and again. Every app transaction takes a commission. Every subscription passes through Apple's system. Every cloud upgrade generates recurring revenue. This is called the ecosystem monetization model, and it is one of the most powerful business strategies ever created, because it turns users into long-term revenue streams. But the real genius is deeper than money. It is control through convenience. Apple doesn't force users to stay. It simply makes staying easier than leaving. And when a system becomes easier to stay in, people naturally remain inside it. This is not traditional marketing. This is behavioral design. To truly understand Apple, we need to go beyond business. We need to enter human psychology. Because Apple does not just sell technology, it sells identity. When someone uses an iPhone, they're not just using a device. They're expressing status, simplicity, premium experience, belonging. Apple products are designed to feel emotionally satisfying, and emotional satisfaction is more powerful than technical specification. Even when competitors offer better hardware, Apple users often don't switch. Why? Because switching is not just about features, it is about identity change. Another powerful factor is simplicity. Apple removes complexity from its system, and simplicity creates habit. Habit creates dependency, and dependency creates long-term loyalty. Without users even realizing it, Apple becomes part of their daily routine, not as a tool, but as an environment. So when we look at Apple from the outside, we see products, we see innovation, we see technology. But when we look deeper, we see something else: a closed ecosystem, a connected environment, a system designed for long-term user retention. Not through force, not through pressure, but through design, psychology, and convenience. And that is the real reason Apple became one of the most valuable companies in the world. Because in today's world, the most powerful companies are not those that sell the most products. They are the ones that shape human behavior. And Apple has mastered that better than almost anyone else. So the next time you pick up your iPhone, take a moment and observe something. Not the device itself, but the system around it. Your apps, your data, your habits, your daily life. Because modern technology is no longer just about tools, it is about ecosystems. And ecosystems are designed to keep you inside them. If you enjoyed this documentary, subscribe for more deep business stories. Because behind every global brand, there is a hidden system waiting to be understood. And this is just the beginning.